Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Dose of Reality. I cannot extend my happiness today that we have Sheikh Khalid Yasin, a Dose of Reality. I am honored, Sheikh. Please welcome to Dose of Reality.
Thank you so very much, sister. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm so honored to be here today.
Thank you. So, since it's been Corona, I haven't been doing my show lately, guys. I know it's a bit once in a blue moon right now, but the reason why I have the Sheikh today. So I'm usually following Sheikh Khalid since I was a teenager. Especially Sheikh, I love your lectures and everything about the purpose of life. MashaAllah, one of the greatest lectures that you've made when I was in a teenager age. MashaAllah. So I enjoyed doing that and I follow you all the time. And I saw one of your classes that you were doing. It's called Real Islam, right? And I was like, what is Sheikh talking about? Islam should be one. And I was just curious about it. So I was like, I'm going to contact the Sheikh and I probably want to take this class and kind of get more into what's going on behind real Islam. So, Sheikh, the reason why you're here today, we just want you to go a little bit deep into why did you come up with this real Islam? What do you mean by that, Sheikh? What do you mean by that? Can you explain this to the audience and our society? Because I did take the class. I don't want to go deep because I want people to take the class so they can understand what you mean by that. Because there's so much less understanding about how immigrants and how other people from other countries are coming to US and understanding their lifestyle. After taking the class, I kind of have an open-minded mind, bro. So this time I want you to kind of explain to the society and the people watching us and my audience, inshallah, and mostly around the world, to understand why you came up with this and why it shouldn't be a confusion when people see that is Sheikh talking about a different Islamic people that we don't know. Could you go into
Yes.
detail?
Thank you very much for that. Sister Shukri, it's a pretty straightforward reason that we select this title, Real Islam. And it's for two reasons. One, young people, they don't talk like older people. Uh, uh, it's one language if you're speaking English. But if you talk with young people in London, or you talk to young people in America, or you talk to young people in Holland, or if you talk to young people, you see that they are speaking a different language today.
Right.
And you have to address the language to young people because now most of social media, most of media itself is being driven towards young people. And
That's true.
so, with young people, a very common saying among young people to each other, yo, keep it real. When you're talking about something, they say, yo, keep it real, just keep it real. So what that means to young people is, I don't want all that other stuff. Just say what's truthful. Give it to me
Yeah.
straight.
Mm-hmm.
Lay it on the line. Give
Mm-hmm.
me the basics. Give me the fundamentals. Give me the real deal. That's what they mean, young people. And when young people say that, this means they don't want all the fluff. They don't want all that cultural stuff. They don't want all that intellectual stuff. They want the real, what is Islam today, right now? So that's one meaning that it has. The
Okay.
second meaning that it has is for intellectual people, educated people. Real means relevant.
Mhm.
It means relevant. So all the Islamic historical stuff we want to talk about, all the ideological, epistemological, all the stuff that people learn in the universities and the Arabic language, and all that beautiful stuff that we learn from intellectuals and all that stuff which is connected,
Right.
that's not necessarily relevant today.
Mhm.
People are living in America today who are good citizens, who are hardworking people. They
Mhm.
want to know in the back of their minds, what is Islam going to give me that I don't have?
That's right.
What is Islam going to solve for me? Problems that's in my life.
Mm-hmm.
What does Islam have to do with America?
Mm-hmm.
What does Islam have to do with the European Union? What does Islam have to do with the modern world today?
That's right.
So this means that we have to express Islam not from the point of the scholars, because the scholars are real, they are a part of the fabric, but the scholars, most of them are in countries where they're not able to connect Islam to local problems that people are having in their lives every day. So for that reason, they're not uh, people today are not disrespecting the scholars, but I think that many of the scholars, unlike doctors, they're not attending classes every once or twice a year. Doctors, lawyers, they have to attend classes. They got to upgrade their license because there's new technology, there are new procedures, there are new things in law that they have to know, and if they don't know that, they're not going to be accepted inside the court because they're not up to date. They're not going to be able to do surgery because they're not up to date. But the scholars in Islam seems like even if they gave a fatwa 30 years ago or 150 years ago, we got to follow that fatwa. Sometimes the fatwa doesn't connect. And so what I've decided to do is that even though I'm 74 years old, I spent 10 days with my great grandson during the COVID. Now, can you imagine 74 years old and my great grandson, he's 9. We're in the house together for 10 days. So he's in his thing with his games and all his other stuff. He's got to do home classes, and I got to work with him.
That's right.
So the language between he and I became something where I had to make a concession for him. He had to at times say to me, Granddaddy, that word that you just used, I don't even know what that means. So, so in a small space of time, I had to come to his level. He had to come up to my level, and we started to communicate. Now that's what I call keeping it real. 74 years old, 9 years old. There are obviously generational gaps there. Well,
That's
within
right.
2 days, 3 days, there wasn't no generation gap because he and I made sacrifices for each other in order for us to get that real connection.
That's
So
right.
I'm giving you my understanding, or I'm trying to transmit to you my understanding, the reasons that I use this terminology, real Islam. This is not a different Islam. This is not another Islam. This is like delivering Islam in a package that is appropriate for the time and the place that we are now living in.
Okay.
And so, unfortunately, Sister Shukri, when you go into bookstores in Europe or America, you find all these beautiful books about Aqidah, about tafsir and the stories and seerah and this and that and fiqh and the understandings and the rulings and the fatwas and the explanations and Q&A and all these beautiful things that we find. But you
Right.
don't find any books about business. When's the last time any one of us went into a bookstore and looked for a book on its business and Islam? You don't find it. Where do you find a book on science and Islam? I mean, technology and Islam, business and Islam, Islam and government. Where do you find that? Where do you find that, what's the Islamic position about recreation? How do we enjoy ourselves as Muslims? What do? We're always into this haram thing. When we're with our friends and our colleagues and all that, and they're going to go play tennis, or they're going to the movies, or they're going to have dinner, or they're going wherever they're going. And first of all, they say, well, Sheikh, are you going to, would you like to go with us? So what I have to do is I got to bow out. I got to say, oh, no, thank you, guys. Oh, I'm very sorry. Or, in my religion, we don't listen to music. Or, in my religion, we don't go to those kind of events because people are not going to be dressed right and blah, blah, blah. So we wind up being exclusionists. We exclude ourselves from everything. It's an excuse because of our dress, because of our diet, because of our this, because of our that. So what do we do that other people do?
That's right.
That's the question. So in real Islam, I am addressing that we Muslims, we're not exclusionists. Islam never asked us to be exclusionists. We are very much involved. We're very much on the same page. We have the same social responsibilities as everybody else. And we have to find a way to make Islam fit in our lives and not force us to fit ourselves into Islam. You understand that point?
That's right. Yeah.
Usually when we talk to non-Muslims, we give them the feeling like if they want like to be Muslim, they need to fit into Islam. No, that's not true. Our Prophet ﷺ, when he sent some people to Habash, those Muslims that went to Habash, he did not tell them that when you get there, tell them what Islam is, and they got to adjust to Islam. No, when they got there, they were what? They were refugees. They were asking that country, that king, to protect them. So it's them, it's we Muslims that have to fit into society where we are and become productive and beneficial, and not us telling others how they got to respect our religion. Oh, I got to go to Juma. Oh, this is Eid prayer. Or you guys have to do this and you guys have to respect us. No, that's not true. We have to fit into the society where we are and be productive. And we have to not create trauma among our relatives, our colleagues, and our neighbors. We always introducing this traumatic stuff. We don't eat this, or we don't do this, or we can't join you guys, or this is haram, or blah, blah, blah. No, we are making other people uncomfortable. We're creating a traumatic situation with other people. We are being unsociable. And at the same token, we want our cake and eat it too. We want all the benefits of the country where we are. But at the same token, we never answer the questions of the other people. So what Islam is going to do for America? What are the Muslims going to do for this here community? What are the Muslims going to do for their for your family members who are still Christians? What are you going to do for them? What is this new change of life? What benefit does it have for your family? What benefit does it have for your community or the company that you work in? Because you're a Muslim, does your Islam is going to give this company something that others who are not Muslims, they don't give it? We never answer those questions. So what I'm trying to do in Real Islam, in the discussions of Real Islam, I am answering the questions that normally we don't want to answer.
Yes.
I'm putting ourselves in a position that we don't want to be put in, where we are responsible, where we have to talk about, and I'm going to go somewhere. I'm going to go somewhere in this conversation that might make us a little bit uncomfortable, but I'm going to go there because this is what conversation is really about.
Yes.
On January the 6th, sister, something happened in our country that never happened in my entire life. I don't recall anything like this ever happening. January the 6th, 12 to 15,000 Americans with guns stormed our capital, committed a political insurrection against the government. They scaled the walls. They kicked down doors. They came with what do you call those things that they put on people with handcuffs like? That means that they were going to take captives. They came with bombs. Now, this is a political insurrection, a coup. But because they were white people, they were dealt with gloves. Even they were allowed to come in by members of Congress, and the Senate allowed them to come in because they were sympathetic. Now, if these were black people, 12 to 15,000 black people, brown people, Arab, Asian, whatever kinds of people, if they stormed the White House, like if they stormed the Capitol like that, I would say that most of them would be dead and they would be in jail. And this would be considered to be like a major act of terrorism against this country.
That is true.
But today, 12 days later, nobody's considering it like that because they were white people. So now, okay. So I want to say to Muslims, what was your feeling that day?
I was shocked.
No, I'm not asking you. I'm asking Muslims in general, to be honest. What was your feeling that day? Because that's the real person that you really are. If you didn't feel anything, if you were neutral, that means you're not an American. If you were not upset, incensed by this action, then it's like you would not mind somebody raping your mother in front of you. What kind of persons are we that we allow some Americans to encroach upon something that we know to be sacred? When people become Americans in this country, they come to a room, a ceremony. They swear allegiance. I never did it because I didn't have to, right? They swear allegiance that they're going to uphold this country. They're going to respect this country. They're going to obey the constitutional rules of this country. They are going to be Americans. in their spirit, in their feeling, even if they are Muslims or Hindus or Buddhists, they're going to be Americans. So for me, I became an American, a real American, when I joined the military. I knew that when I joined the military, that was an act of patriotism, of responsibility. I knew it then. I know it right now. And as a Muslim, I have never had any feelings of insurrection or treachery against my country. I have never had that. I'm a dissident. You know, I am a dissident. That means I don't agree with everything I see.
Yeah.
But being a dissident and being being dissident or being a part of sedition, these are two different things. Our Prophet ﷺ was never a part of sedition. He was never disloyal. He was never treacherous. He never took advantage of the enemy. Even when he was making hijrah, you remember, he left Ali in his bed. Why? Because he was holding a trust by the enemies. And he did not want somebody to come in his house and take that trust. And somebody would say that Muhammad betrayed his trust, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we Muslims are holding the trust of this country. They brought us in from wherever we came from. They gave us the best. We got good homes, we got good schools, we got our children, we got a good quality of life, we got hospitals, we got medicine, we got all kinds of things that we did not get in our countries. And I've been there. I've been to all the Muslim countries. So how would a Muslim sit on January the 6th and see this happening and not put themselves in a position? If I was in DC, what would I have done? So real Islam are things that I want to discuss like that. My citizenship, my allegiance to this country. Where do I stand when it comes, you understand me, to issues that's happening around the world? How do I feel? Or am I an American? Am I an American by immigration? And I came here to have a better life, and I've got a nice house. I've got good children. My children go to good schools. I drive a nice car. I've got a good salary. I've got all the quality of life, but I don't give a damn about this country.
Impossible.
Well, Sister Shukri, I want to tell you that the majority of Muslims, even though they don't say it like that, that's their position. They could care less. When they get their money, they send half their money home. They're not investing the money in the community where they live at. So they're here taking advantage. They want the cake and eat it too. They want to be respected. They want to be recognized. They want all the rights, they're this and that. But what are they giving to the country? So Islam is not like that. Our Prophet ﷺ, when he moved to Medina, he gave his whole life to Medina. Not just to the Muslims, but he defended the city itself, right? Our Prophet ﷺ. And even when the Prophet ﷺ left Mecca, he did not leave as like somebody who's what do you call somebody who's they're looking for him where he escaped or something like that, a fugitive. The Prophet ﷺ did not leave Mecca as a fugitive. No, he was running from them. They were going to kill him. But still he was thinking about what? Their honor, their trust, how they. Secondly, when he came back, he could have come back as an avenger. He didn't come to avenge. He came back to that city and conquered that city after all they had did, and he gave everyone amnesty. So what kind of Muslims are we? So in real Islam, Sister Shukri, I am discussing the issues that nobody else wants to discuss, because it's either we put it under the rug because we are ashamed, we don't want to talk about it. You know, we know that our daughters are going out and clubbing and getting pregnant, okay, and we don't want nobody to know about that, so we don't say anything about it. But we are raising little illegitimate kids in our homes, and we don't talk to the neighbors about it because we are so, we come to the mosque, we are so religious.
We're good.
So in real Islam, I want to discuss drugs. I want to discuss children running away from home. I want to talk about parental abuse. I want to talk about our allegiance to this country. I want to talk about our social obligation. I want to talk about women who are not allowed to marry in their own religion because, in the culture, when a woman is divorced, she's broken. And who
That's
wants
true.
to marry a broken woman? So they don't marry. So we know that, I know for a fact that 17 out of 20 women who are divorced, Muslim women who are divorced in their own country, they will never be remarried again. And in many countries, they don't even let them go outside and even mix with the public and try to find another husband. So what is that? What kind of thinking is that? So now we got sisters and we got brothers and sisters here in America. A sister's divorced, nobody want to marry her. She has no status. She has nobody to look after her. But this is Islam? No, this is not Islam. This is culture. So I want to talk about the things that will make us sound as Muslims. I want to talk about our political obligation. Do we participate in the electoral process? We're all beneficiaries, but do we participate? Oh, so in the mosque they say, oh, that's dunya. We not about that. We ain't voting for nobody. They kafirs and blah blah blah. Okay, so then when your children go to school and they're teaching this new sex education in the schools to your daughters and to your sons, oh, you don't like that, but you were not there and you didn't vote for anybody who themselves wrote that legislation. Mm-hmm. I heard a comment some brothers made about Sister Ilhan Omar, that courageous young Somali sister, who stepped out there by herself because, she's thinking idealistically. She want to make a change. I don't say I agree with everything she has done, but wallahi, I don't know any Muslim man in America with the heart that she has. So, but we got this double standard. Oh, look how she's mixing with other people in this. But at the same token, our men with our beards, with our kufis, with our knowledge, with whatever we are, we're not there. So our Muslim sisters are there. They're there to clean up stuff for us, but we're not there. But we're judging them. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the fact that majority of the mosques in America, they are subscribing to foreign leadership. That means a scholar who's an agent of his country. He's an agent of his country. Mm-hmm. The people are subscribing to his leadership. So that means that most of our masjids are being guided by people who are foreign agents. I want to talk about that. And our children are not going for that. Our children, when they get to high school and first year of college, and they understand that we are being manipulated by foreign agents, they are saying right there, I'm not a part of that. Then we wonder why we are losing our children and we don't want to talk about it. Okay, so sister, I think I've raised enough issues.
Enough reasons.
For you to understand. Yeah, enough. I think I've raised enough issues or gave you enough indications of why I believe that real Islam has got to be discussed. Mm-hmm. Because real Islam is the Islam that is relevant to our everyday life. And any part of Islam that's not relevant to our everyday life, we got a misunderstanding about it. It is not Islam, it is us. And this Asian, African, Arab persona about Islam, that somehow or another Islam has to subscribe to Asian, African, or Arab culture. That's not true. If I recite the Fatiha in my prayer, that has nothing to do with Arabic culture. If I'm reading the Quran, that has nothing to do with Arabic culture.
That's true.
The Arabs themselves was a beneficiary of Islam, but Islam is not a beneficiary of the Arabs.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And so I am passionate about discussing this here because we are going down a line of social, religious, and political and moral imbalance. And if you're imbalanced from the time you come out, there's no way for you to perform properly. Ask any athlete, ask any musician. You ask a woman who's in her kitchen cooking and all the stuff is all over the place. How is she going to make the correct meal? How's it all going to come together?
Okay.
So we Muslims think that because, when Eid comes, when Ramadan comes, we become so religious because it's all a facade. We're just putting on all the things that make people think, make us feel like. So what's the difference between us and the Christians who doing Christmas? We say, oh, we don't follow that. But we follow some other kind of culture. No, we have to make our Islam fit. And we have to make it fit so that other people who are looking at Islam can see it to be whole, wholesome.
Right.
If something is not wholesome, it's not complete, it doesn't look well, you can't market it, nobody wants it, even if it has value. We know that. I would not go to a restaurant if the guy throws the food on the plate, like on the table. It could be a very fancy restaurant. I don't like the way he's dressed. I don't like the way he acts. I don't like the way he puts my food down on the table. What am I going to do? I don't want it. It's right or wrong. And that's the way Islam is being presented to other Americans. Just throw it out there. I went to a football not last week, I'll just say a few weeks ago. I went to a football. And the person who's giving the football, he's talking bad about the country. The guy's got on a black turban, black leather socks. He's got on the whole thing, the Arab garb and everything. He's on the minbar and he's talking about America as a country of conspirators. This is an evil country. This guy he's an immigrant. 20 years ago, he's got 5 or 6 sons. His sons are American citizens. He's an American citizen, but he's talking about the country like they are our enemies. I decided that day, I'm never going to a mosque like that again. Because they're not from my people. We ain't on the same page. We're not reading the same Quran. We're not living the same Islam. And I'm not going to accept, just because of the culture, that somehow or another I should swallow that. I should sit there and accept that. And this guy's giving the kubar and I should pray behind him like I accept that. No. So I think real Islam, for me, is not just a discussion. So I'll stop right there.
Okay. So those are very great way of explaining what real Islam and how it involves us as Muslims, inshallah, and how we should live our life as Americans at the same time, according to Islamic values. The question that I have for you, do you believe that in terms of where you have visited different places with the different cultures and the way they do deen in their way, and then when we come here, there's a culture shock that we still have that mentality that we shouldn't be changed, but we're doing our part as Muslims, living in this society, but we shouldn't change that boundaries of who we are besides just cultural but Islamically? What do you think about that?
Well, the first thing I say, Sister Shukri, it's one thing if you were run out of your country.
Mm-hmm.
You see, if you were run out of your country, like the Prophet was run out of Mecca, that's a different issue. But most of the people who are coming to America, they have not been run out of the country. They escaped.
Mm-hmm.
They came willfully. And they knew why they came. Because they could no longer tolerate, the kind of government, the lack of freedoms and quality of life that they were engaged in spite of the fact that there are mosques everywhere, in spite of the fact that most of the people are reading the Quran, in spite of the fact that 90% of the people are Muslims. They could not tolerate the quality of life that they were missing when they knew they had a chance to come to America or to go to Europe. So they made that decision. And when they made that decision, they should have considered to themselves, well, when I leave from my country and go to another country, there's going to be a cultural shock. Yeah, so what? Whoop-de-doo that you didn't think of that. Mm-hmm. Well, here you are now in America getting all the benefits that you anticipated and even more, but you are uncomfortable because of the cultural shock.
And the effect of this.
Mm-hmm. No. This is not fair. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. Mm-hmm. You cannot have all what you left in your country and then expect when you come here, the country here is going to give you everything they have. And at the same token, they're going to ask you, and what would you like us to do regarding your culture? It doesn't work that way. When it's wintertime, you got to put away your summer clothes. And in the summer, you got to put away your winter clothes. So wake up and smell the coffee, Muslims. Understand where you are, take advantage of where you are, and be responsible citizens of the country that you came in, embraced, and they also embraced you. That's my position. Now, should the country be more sensitive? Yes, they should, of course. But we call that peripheral. That's peripheral. That's not the center of things.
Mm-hmm.
When we come to this country, we want a driver's license, right? Because we want to drive. So we go through the whole stages of what it takes to drive. We come to this country, we want a nice home. So we work real hard. And even we break some of our rules, Islamic rules, to get that house that we want, right?
That's true.
But all of a sudden, when it comes to citizenship, responsibility, and giving something back, all of a sudden we become so pro our culture. I say that's a double standard. I say that's an unethical, hypocritical, double standard. And anybody in the world will understand it's a double standard.
Yes.
You want something that you haven't even paid for. Other people bled for it, died for it, went to jail for it, was harmed by it, and you came here and you became a beneficiary without even doing nothing. On top of that, you want some special considerations for your culture? No, you get no special consideration for your culture. What you get is what every other American gets and should expect is what? Respect. Not from everybody, but the government generally respects. I mean, that's what I know about the United States of America, that generally the country respects everybody and their cultures and their position. Now let's put aside a pathetic human being like Donald Trump. And thank God, isn't it wonderful that we have a country that this guy is gone. He's history. And he'll probably going to be impeached so that he cannot run for office again. Thank God for the system of America. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, this guy, he could do a coup. He attempted a coup. And he could still come back, lose the coup, still come back and run for president again if he was in Africa, if he was in Asia, if he was in Arabia. He could be there for 50 years and nobody could say anything. But he's not. He's in America. And he will be judged. And thank God there is some kind of justice within the American system, that a guy like Donald Trump, even probably he's going to wind up in jail. That's what we hope for. We pray for. But if he was in Arabia, if he was an Arabian leader, he wouldn't wind up in jail. He would be the leader for the next 50 years. If he was in Africa, as long as he had money, it wouldn't make any difference. Other countries would keep him there and he would be there for 50 years. But he's not. He is in America and he is subject to American Constitution. And we are the beneficiaries of the American Constitution. And I thank God every single day when I leave this country and come back. I am grateful that God made me a Muslim, even though the circumstances that I'm a descendant of slaves. So do I accept what they did to my people? No. But that's what they did at that time. This is what I can do now. So, sister, I'm saying as a Muslim, as an African American, as a citizen, I am very concerned about how this country views Islam, not the way they view Muslims. Because, if I come out of my house drunk, undressed, foul talking, disrespecting people, it doesn't matter if I'm a Muslim or not. I expect for the people in the neighborhood to put me in check. Is right or wrong?
That's true.
So I am very concerned that young people are leaving Islam because they're not leaving Islam because of Islam. They're leaving Islam because it's being put down their throats. They're being told to, it's like if you told your children to eat shredded wheat for breakfast, because, it has so much nutrition, right? But you tell them, I want you to eat shredded wheat for breakfast, but no milk. So what are your kids? They're afraid. They don't know what you're going to do. You tell them, you better eat that, and they're going to eat it, and they're going to be choking and everything. But guess what? They're going to grow up hating shredded wheat. Not because of the nutrition, because the parents forced them to do that, right?
That's right.
So some of our children, they're growing up hating Islam. They don't say it, but as soon as they get away, high school, college, finished, they're gone. Why? Because of how it was forced down their throats. It didn't feel good to them. They were not making their own choices. Other people were making their choices and shaming them, shaming them. And so
Mhm.
once they got out of that control of shame, they decided to do their own thing. And sometimes when Muslims go astray, and Muslims don't talk about this, when Muslims go astray and start drinking and drugging, they drink more and they drug more than others because they think they got to prove something to somebody. So I'm holding these discussions about real Islam because I want my grandchildren, my great grandchildren, I want my children, I want other young people, I want other Americans to know that I'm not double standard. I believe that Islam, I say this in my book, I believe that Islam is good for America.
Mhm.
And I believe America is good for Islam. That's my belief. And I can argue that in front of Muslims or non-Muslims very well. Why? Because I'm keeping it real.
That's right.
So that's what real Islam is about. That I want to talk about Islam in a way that I know that I can defend my religion. I can talk about my religion to anybody. And I can also say to Muslims, half of the misconceptions and distortions that people have about Islam and Muslims is because of the Muslims themselves.
Do you believe most of these misconceptions are coming from other scholars that when we are looking up to them and they spread the word of Allah and we have that strictness in it of how we live our life? And do you believe that? Do you think they'll agree with you also on your?
Oh no, they're not going to agree with me, and I don't expect them to because, first of all, um, no one wants to come out. Let me use a good tamthil, a good example. Okay,
Mhm.
in the Wild Wild West, where everybody had guns, right?
Mhm.
And there's a
Yeah.
sheriff. That sheriff is telling everybody who comes in the town. He said, "Hey, you got to check you got in this town here. You got to check your weapons." The guy said, "I'm not checking my weapon." So who wants to be the sheriff? Who wants to come out into the street when everybody got weapons? Who wants to come out? Nobody. Everybody will stay inside their home, right?
Mhm.
Okay, well, we're here in America where everybody can say everything and everybody can do everything, whatever they want to say. And
Freedom of speech.
if you're not well equipped, you're not going to be coming out.
Right.
You're just going to keep your mouth shut and practice your Islam inside somewhere. Well, I'm not. I'm coming out because I am well equipped and I am an American. And I can say very clearly that I have allegiance for my country, but that allegiance doesn't supersede my allegiance to Allah.
Mhm.
I want good for my country and I want good for my people. I want good for my family and I want good for Islam. And I believe that Islam is the best ideology for the whole world, the best ideology for America. But at the same token, I also say that being in America and being Muslim is one of the greatest blessings that God could have given to me or anybody else.
Mhm.
So now, in that respect, scholars are not saying that. Why the scholars are not saying that? Because they're talking from countries that if they was to say that, they would be punished. And how can a scholar talk about my issue? He's outside. I'm inside the movie house. I'm watching the movie. And the scholar is someplace else. He's telling me about what the movie is. I'm in the restaurant and I'm eating. The scholar is looking at a book of the menu. He's telling me about the menu. I'm inside the restaurant.
Mhm.
A scholar is telling me from somewhere else in Mecca how I should live my life, and I'm in New York. I mean, let's get real.
Mhm.
It doesn't happen that way. Even a doctor, your personal doctor, is very careful about telling you what you should do or what you should not do, even though he's an expert in medicine. He's an
Mhm.
expert in health. He gives you his advice, he gives you prescriptions, but he doesn't tell you how to live your life, does he? So scholars, I don't care who they are. I don't care how learned they are. They have no right to tell me or you how to live our life in a country where they have never even visited. No, they should be very reserved and say, Well, in my opinion, I would like to advise you this or that. But at the end of the day, you're in America. This is your life. This is your family. And this is your responsibility. And you should ask scholars in your country what they think about this issue and not me in another country. They should say that, but they don't. Because they are promoting their country and the religion, the religious persuasion in their country. And so we wind up being indoctrinated, Sister Shukri. You know, we think it's education, but actually it's indoctrination. So that's another reason I'm talking about real Islam. I want to break this whole idea of indoctrination. I want to break it. I didn't say they're completely wrong, but you know, Shukri, if you are in a car leaving Minneapolis and your intention is to drive to Canada, right?
Exactly.
But you're on I-20. You know I-20. I-20 goes east and west, right?
Right.
I-20 goes east and west. So if you're going to Canada and you're going east or west, I don't care what your religion is, you're on the wrong highway. It's right or wrong.
That's true.
And that's our situation, that we are here in many cases, we are following indoctrination and culture. So the indoctrination has been fostered by the culture. The culture doesn't oppose indoctrination. The culture itself has indoctrination inside of it. So with the religion and the culture, we wind up being Muslims that have been primarily indoctrinated. I'm saying that there's some good in culture, obviously. So I don't want to be stepping on nobody's culture, but culture is not above reason.
Yeah.
And culture is not above the religion. And I don't have to use the culture for me to understand or practice the religion. So about 20 years ago, I started unraveling what I considered to be my own indoctrination. You know, I had teachers that I love, that I respected. You know, I learned things and I read books that today I've considered to be very good. But 20 years ago, I started unraveling things that when I unraveled it, it took me back to culture. It took me back to some Arab, Asian, or African culture. It took me back to scholars or people who wrote books that I accepted without question. That's called indoctrination. I started looking at the principles of Islam. I started looking at myself as an American. I started looking at myself as an African. I started traveling around the world and I started questioning for myself, what is Islamic and what is culture? And started to take these two things apart. After a while, I started finding out that 20%, 30%, 40% of my Islam was really indoctrination. I never questioned it. And when I started questioning it, I started finding out that, whoa, maybe only 40% of what I really know is really just Islam itself. Another 20% is gray areas that I just accept somebody else to explain for me, even though they're not Americans. So that's 60%, Sister Shukri, I have taken it back.
Mashallah.
That's 60%. The 40% indoctrination and 20% of somebody somewhere else telling me how I should live my life, I took that back. That's my responsibility. That's what I'm passing to my children. That's what I'm passing to my grandchildren. And that's what I talk to my mother will be 98 years old in 7 days.
Mashallah.
My mother is a Muslimah, and we have a great relationship. But one of the things she tells me all the time is, son, I'm following you. Make it clear. I left Christianity because I see Jesus in Islam. That's what she told me. Secondly, I left Christianity because the way you explained Islam to me, I don't see me losing nothing in Christianity. She told me like that. But son, don't take me to any of those places with the immigrants and their culture. I'm not coming to nobody's back door to come inside the mosque. What did she say?
Yes.
I'm not coming through nobody's back door. If I'm going to the mosque with you, son, I'm going through the same door you're going through. This is my 97-year-old mother. Secondly, she said, son, their attitudes, they never eat our food. She says, I've been to so many places with you. They never eat our food. They always want to give us their food. So what's wrong with our food? She said, every mosque I ever went to with you, they're eating somebody's food from Africa, Asia, Afghanistan, Arabia, wherever, but they don't want to eat our food. So what's wrong with our food? She told me second thing, if your religion is the same as those guys down the street on the corner selling beer and selling alcohol and beer and lottery tickets and girly magazines, those is Muslims down there too. If those are the Muslims that I'm joining, I go back to the church. This is how my mother talks. Now, I'm not going to say there's a lot of people like my mother, because there's not.
That's true.
But
She knows better.
I know that there are Americans who love Islam, but they do not accept the double standards that they see with Muslims. And for me, I have to make sure that that I'm being fair. Immigrants who are in this country, they are innocent. And I believe that they are decent. And I believe they came here for the right reasons. So that's my first position. However, my question to them is, if you're in my country, did you come to my country to become a leader of Islam? If you did, you came to the wrong country. Because you have no right to come to this country and prefer yourself as a leader than for you to follow a leader that is from this country. Because I can't go to Saudi Arabia if I graduated from the university with a PhD. I can't go to Egypt if I graduated from Azhar. I can't go anywhere in the Muslim world and become a leader just because of my knowledge. They would never allow me to do that. So how can Muslims come to this country and open up a mosque and start teaching? And after a while, they own most of the mosques. They come together and form their international organization, and they say they are the leaders of the Muslims in America. Well, I'm going to do something about that too. Because Islamically and ethically, that is wrong. That's never happened before. And the fact that America is that kind of country that they will allow that to happen doesn't mean that it's correct for that to happen. It hasn't happened nowhere else in the Muslim world, nowhere else in Islamic history that hasn't happened. And me, I'm concerned that people who came to this country as immigrants, they want to make themselves a leader for my great-grandchild, for my grandchildren. After we suffered everything we did, they come along and take the benefits and then say they're the leaders. No. When I'm talking about real Islam, I'm discussing that issue too. So I know that my book, Islam, America, and the World, that I just finished, will be up on Amazon in about 6 or 7 days. I know that it's going to ruffle a lot of feathers. I know that some people are not going to like it. But you know what? I could care less. If you're speaking the truth, if you've read it over and over and you document it and you put it up as a publication, this means that you believe it. So I want Americans, non-Muslims, I want them to read my book. I want Muslims to read my book. But it's not going to matter too much about how they feel about it, because guess what? After I wrote it and I put it up on Amazon, I'm moving to the next book. What I want to say, sister, I just finished this book, and I'll be moving on to, I'm doing the audio book now. So I'll be finished with this book, and it's going to be history, and I'll be moving on to something else. But one of my primary concerns is that the Islam that reaches the public, the Islam that people read about and they see through Muslims, my job is to reasonably ensure that what people think Islam is, that's what it is. Right. The information that people are receiving about Islam, it is really about Islam. And that what people are seeing in the actions of Muslims, or what they are reading about Muslims, that they don't get confused that is Islam. That's part of my responsibility. And I'm very honored that you asked me to come on this program, because normally I don't accept a lot of invitations, because I'm not so much interested in being a celebrity. I'm not interested in defending my ideas or nothing like that. So if I do it on my own Facebook page, then that's me. I'm taking that responsibility. But I
That's
don't
true.
take too many invitations from other people. But sister, you joined the Real Islam class.
That's right.
And so if you join my class, that's just like me. I'm asking Muslims all the time. You know, you always asking non-Muslims to come to the mosque. Oh, come to the mosque so you can see really what Islam is. Just come to the mosque. Okay, so if your Christian friends on your job or your colleagues that you work with or you go to school with, if they said to you, oh, Shukri, listen, I don't mind going to the mosque, but I want you to come to the church with me. So all of a sudden now you see it's different, double standard.
Mhm.
Oh, no, 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 I'm sorry, I can't. You know, we Muslims, we are not allowed to. Hold it, wait a minute.
But I
You
came
want
to.
somebody to come to the mosque, but you're not willing to go to the church?
Yeah,
Something is wrong there. I didn't say you're going to the church to worship. You're going to the church to do what? To listen,
to listen and look. Yep.
to participate with them, to show them that you are from them and they are from you and you appreciate them. That's why you want them to come to the mosque. And that's the reason why we should go to the church. But ask the average Muslim in Minneapolis, have they ever been to a church?
I don't believe so.
Huh?
I don't believe
No,
so.
no, they will say, Astaghfirullah, Astaghfirullah, Astaghfirullah. Why should we go to the church? So why shouldn't a Christian tell you, Astaghfirullah? Why should I go to the mosque? So
Right.
this is the double standard that we live. And Sister Shukri, you are very courageous sister
Thank you.
to have me to come on your show and talk like this. Because later on, some people are going to say to you, why you bring that sheikh on there talking like that? You know,
It
he don't
happened.
like our culture. You know, one day I was in a taxi with some Somali guys. These are my young Somali sons.
Mhm.
Okay, they're like my sons, and they're young and they live in America. So I was in the car with them one day, and they were saying to me, "Hey, Sheikh, you know, we thinking about getting married. You know, in our family, they want us to marry Somali girls, right?" So I said, "Okay, if you know, that's normal. You want to marry a Somali girl, marry them. That's from your family." So they were saying, "Hey, Sheikh, but would you advise us? Because, you know, we travel around the world and travel different places and we see other ladies that we want to marry. So what do you think?" So we were in a taxi or one of the brothers' car. So I said to them, guys, let me tell you this. I know you guys are Somalis, but you're also Americans. And I would really advise you guys to think twice before you marry this Somali girl. Because they not like most other girls. They are very difficult girls. I don't mean difficult in their personality. I don't mean difficult to live with. I mean that they come from a background where they are very different women.
Mhm.
And if you can't handle the Somali girl, you need to leave them alone. So, you know, when the Somali girls heard what I said, they was like, "Stuff for love. How the Sheikh is talking about us like that?" No, I was giving them a compliment because me, I have a Somali wife, and I know Somali women are tough. And if you can't handle them,
Leave
go to
them alone.
somebody else, marry somebody else. So I was like talking to the guys like that because they was like my sons, but it went viral.
I
The
saw.
next day, it was like all over the place. So I had to make another tape to say, "Hey, sisters, listen, Subhanallah, this is what really happened. It was a compliment." Then the sister, "Oh, okay, Sheikh, Allahu Akbar, thank you very much, Sheikh, you the best." So, sister, I'm saying that we have to be honest with each other.
Mhm.
Um, that when we are presenting Islam to people, we want to make sure that it's Islam and not culture. You know,
Yes.
otherwise I would just join Minister Farrakhan. You know, Mr. Farrakhan, I like the way he talks. I like the way he dresses. You know, I like seeing certain things. However, there is something within the Islamic etiquette that we have a major disagreement about.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to be following him when I have a major disagreement about something, but I am respecting him for what he's saying because he says a lot of things that Muslims living in America, we're not saying.
That's right.
So thank you very much, sister, for inviting me. And I was like, even like last night, I was thinking about what am I going to say to them? When the sister asked me this, maybe certain things I should not say because maybe she's going to get the flack when she hangs up. So anyway, sister, thank you for being very courageous and allowing me to come on your program and and say, and dominate the microphone and all of that there. Thank you very much for that. So let me step back for a minute because I'm sure you got some other questions.
Thank you, Chef, so much. I really appreciate that. For me, taking your class, the reason why I came out about it was, you know, you have to share the knowledge with others, especially we we're really confused most of the time. And for me, it was more like da'wah, where if I am questioned on such topic in Islam, and how do I respond back? What are the techniques that I have to use? And when I took your class, I've learned so many things of how I should learn how to respond back to a non-Muslim, someone who does not understand. Why do you do that? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? And also, it was an open eye for me to get involved with the fact that we have left our countries, which you're right, and we've come to a country where there are so many things that we didn't know that we have to abide by it. But at the same time, with what our religion was saying, is it okay for us to do these things? How can we do it, and which are the right ways, being Muslim at the same time but doing this? Like mashallah, the fact that can I buy a house in United States, and interest, and we talked about a lot in the class, and there was just so many questions that some of the students have, and just the idea that you brought. And especially I ask about questions of you know the 401k, with Islam, how does that work? And I love the fact that you say, as a Muslim, you have to do your research, and those things are the things that we're missing in our society, that we're so focused on listening to specific sheikhs, and it's a straight thing that focus on that, and there's no an other idea out of our mind, like this is what is said and this is what we focus on, so it kind of like, so now I can buy a house, now I can do 401k, now I can do this. And we live in a world where at the end of the day we all have to survive and kind of get a life out of it. So shukran so much for letting us take that class, and you kind of open our eyes and mind into many of the knowledge that you've given us. And I wanted to share this with our community and society, if somebody wanted interesting to take your class and kind of listen to you. And it doesn't kill, even if they don't agree, it's alhamdulillah, just take the class, listen to what you are saying, and then compare with what they want to do with their life. So mashallah. Another thing that I wanted to focus on is that in our society we have different type of scholars and different type of knowledges that they provide for us in our community, in our society, in our culture, and everything. And what I noticed is that, matter of fact, a couple of days ago, on Friday, I went out with my girls and we were having dinner and we were talking about the scholars. And some of my friends were talking about that, you know, I like this sheikh and I don't like this sheikh. And I was like, why? For me, specifically, Shukri, I like a straightforward sheikh, and that is focusing on the right thing. And no matter how harsh he is, as long as he's straightforward. And I think that's why I followed you and some other chefs that I think they're straightforward and this is fact. And, they're very energetic about what they're doing. There are specific chefs that my friends didn't like, and they felt that the things that they wanted to hear, and I think this is the most questionable thing in our society and our kids as they're growing up, and women and men. Do I want to listen to a chef that tells me what I want to hear, that sympathize with my wrongs? Do I want to hear with a chef that really focuses on the situation and tells you how good and bad it is, and he's right on that note, that follows what the Quran says, and most of us, some of the girls were more like, no, this person is harsh, and that's why I don't listen to this. That's why. So we are even in a point where we are choosing which scholars we want to listen that satisfy our needs and our understanding. Oh, this sheikh say that, then I'm gonna just go with them. But then we forgot to the part you teach us in our class, the research part. You're listening to this sheikh, but have you do your research to believe what
Mm,
he said is something you want to follow? Does that make sense?
mm. Allahu
So
Akbar.
it's so Alhamdulillah, I took your class, and I was kind of telling them that about it's different to just listen to one sheikh. Different, listen to all of them and choose what you want to go do research behind it, and focus on what is in the Quran and what you want to do with your life, even after listening to them, because you told us that most of the scholars have different way of knowledge and they giving out lectures, as matter of fact, I admire most of them, but there are specific ones that I love them, including you, that I, mashallah, for the sake of Allah, that I admire the encouragement that you can go against so many and still provide the same knowledge in the Quran and the same knowledge that we need to get from you.
Our sister Shukri, I want to just point out
Yeah.
something very beautiful in the seerah of the
Mhm.
Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When in the first battle, well,
Mhm.
it wasn't the first battle, I'm sorry, in one of the very famous battles of Islam to defend Medina and to defend Islam,
Mhm.
the Prophet ﷺ, was realizing that the army that was coming, that very, they were very much outnumbered. They had horses, they had soldiers, they had cavalry, they had equipment, and the Prophet ﷺ was thinking to himself, how am I going to defend Medina? Not just the Muslims. How am I going
But
to defend Medina from this well-equipped army? So he was saying, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what his idea was. This is the
Mhm.
Prophet saying what his idea is, right?
Mhm.
One of the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, Ya Rasulullah. See how respectful he was? He
Mhm.
said, Ya Rasulullah, this idea that you have, is this come from Wahi? This come directly from Allah? Or
Mhm.
this is just your idea? See how respectful he was, right?
That's
The
right.
Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, no, this is not Wahi. Okay. He said, no, no, this is not Wahi. This is my idea. So
Mhm.
that companion, he said, Ya Rasulullah, I have history and experience in
Mhm.
warfare. And I suggest that we dig a ditch, a trench, all the way around Medina,
Mhm.
so that those horses, they cannot jump over that trench. So many advantages we will have. So what did the Prophet say he do? He didn't say, I'm the Prophet. How you questioning me? No, he said, no, no, no.
Middle.
This fikr you have, this is fikr jaida. This is
Mhm.
very good fikr you have. And he immediately began digging the ditch himself with his followers.
Mashallah.
So
That's right.
this shows this shows that even when a prophet is talking to us,
Mhm.
we have the right to ask him, is this from Allah or this from you?
Mhm.
On another occasion, the Prophet was in Medina. He was walking down the roads. In Medina, they were farmers. It's not like Mecca. They were farmers. And so he was walking down the road, and one farmer asked him, "Oh, Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what's your idea about me with the dates? With the dates, you have to every year you have to cut the dates back. I forgot what they call that. They call it pruning the dates or something where you got to cut them back to get a better harvest." So he
Right.
said, "Oh, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what you think?" The Prophet said, "Okay, cut this and do this and so and so." And the person, he said, "Thank you very much." The person said, "Thank you very much." And so when the Prophet was coming that same road at the time of harvest, he met that person. And that person told him, "Ya Rasulullah, Wallahi, last year I had a much better harvest than this year." SubhanAllah. Meaning that last year before, he followed his own advice. This
Yep.
year, he followed the advice of the Prophet and he got
Amazing.
less. So what the Prophet said, he said, when I'm telling you something from Allah, you must do it exactly what I told you.
Mhm.
But if I give you my own idea about something which maybe you got better knowledge, ana bashar, I'm just a man.
Mhm.
See
I'm just
how the
like that.
Prophet said. So if the Prophet is only a man in certain occasions,
Mhm.
and he could be wrong, his fiqh could be incorrect,
That's true.
we're respecting it, but we don't have to take it. So what about scholars?
Mhm. We respect it
A
and we
scholar,
don't.
we don't even question what they say because he went to Azhar or he got a PhD or blah blah blah. No, we got to do the research. We got to ask. In business, they call it SWOT analysis: strengths, weakness, opportunities, threats. There's something in business they call that. We got to look at this. We got to look at the strategy. We got to look at the facts. We got to look, you know, me at. We got to crunch the numbers. And when we crunch the numbers and do the strategy and do the demographics and look at everything, maybe that scholar, he doesn't even know what he's talking about because he did not look into it like that. He's just giving us some general view. Who's going to climb a mountain with a guy who never climbed a mountain before?
No.
Who's going to fly a plane and there's nobody in there to tell her to go through the what do you call it, on the dashboard, or who's going to do that? Nobody. So how in the world can we be talking about Islam in the world, not in Mecca, not in Egypt, but in the world, just from somebody who wrote a book? No. We do our due diligence. This is the word. Anyone in business, anyone buying a house, anyone going to a university, anyone who's going to change their life, they have to do their due diligence. Whether they listen to Shaykh Khalid Yasin or they listen to anybody else. You listen, you respect, but afterwards, do your research. And I always tell Muslims, do the research first before you ask the question. You will get more out of it.
That's right. Well, Sheikh, I think we have covered enough today, mashallah. And I thank you so much for taking your time to be with us at Dose of Reality. It's an honor, and I hope one day we will have time again that you will join us to speak on a specific notes, which I do have more questions in regards, because I want so much knowledge for the society, inshallah. And I will hope I'll have you again. But thank you so much. Is there any last message you'd like to send to the
No, I want to first. I want to thank Valerie for coordinating this broadcast for us. That's number one.
Yes.
Second thing, I want to thank yourself and your staff and the people who and your audience for being courageous and being open to talk about issues other than what we call traditional, classic Islamic issues. And again, I'm very grateful because I haven't been back to Minnesota, to Minneapolis, probably for at least 7 or 8 years at least. And I do miss it because that's one of my favorite cities. And so thank you very much for allowing me to be in your studio and to talk to your audience. Thank you for attending my class. And also please ask your audience that in about 1 week, go to Amazon and look for my book, Islam, America, and the World. Maybe there's a page or two out of those 227 pages that may affect your life.
That's right.
So thank you very much, Sister Shukri, and thank your staff. And we say Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. And may Allah bless and protect us during this auspicious time right now. And may Allah accept from you this effort that you have just made. Thank you.
Ameen. Shukran, Sheikh. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you so much for joining Dose of Reality. This was Shaykh Khalid Yasin with Shukri talking about real Islam. Please go to Amazon, get his book in a week, inshallah, so you can get your own knowledge and kind of do your own research as well for everything that he has talked about. It is an honor to have you, Sheikh, again. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.